Welcome back to another Fantasy Football Predictive Analytics podcast. Rhys Tiller and our good friend Nick Whalen joins us. Nick, how are you?
It's good, man. Not working all week. Just had the holiday. Just hanging out with me and my puppy. It's going pretty well. How about you guys?
We're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And so
Santa was good to us.
What do you get you, Rhys? Anything good?
You got me a 9x12 full of coal. It was very nice.
Wow.
That means I get to throw it at Dad.
I mean, in this market, that might be a pretty good winner, you know?
It's like a new type of cryptocurrency. I get a little type of NFT. And so, but man, it's good. You know, we enjoy these podcasts talking with friends. We've met you in person, and man, it's good just catching up and recording, talking about football.
So, how are your Bears doing? We know you're a Bears fan, and I know you're really keen on keeping Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace and all of them. But how do you think their turmoil is going?
Yeah, I tell you what, if anyone ever needs a scapegoat, I think people have it in Chicago and Matt Nagy. And I honestly, I don't think it's all warranted. I think if you're a chef and you get some D-grade ingredients, you kind of make what you make out of it. I mean, he's never had a losing record. This is his first year of doing that. And I think he's never been dealt a pretty good hand. I mean, you want to go through and make excuses for Matt Rule for his quarterbacks he's had, what his Nagy had, and you can go down the road there. But I think if I had to pick, I think, and I'm not one of the people that likes to say, hey, this person needs to be fired, because I think that we lack a lot of empathy in this world. Yes. I mean, there's still people. Do I want to say that Jeff and Rhys and me, like, we all should get fired at our jobs? Like, I don't think anyone would like to hear that. I think if Chicago is going to replace anybody, I think Ryan Pace makes a lot more sense than Matt Nagy, but they're probably both going to go. Overall, I mean, I did not have the expectations I think that other people had. It's really weird because, like, who thought Chicago was going to make the playoffs this year? I mean, you cut your left tackle, you cut your best corner right before the season starts. You draft a rookie quarterback, trading draft capital. I mean, like, is this what we expected? Really? I mean, it's weird. Like, it hasn't gone as well as we had hoped, but seeing Fields progress is kind of what we want to see. Out of nowhere, we have a solid little running back in Khalil Herbert we didn't know about. Jalen Johnson's taken a step. I think we have a good young tackle in Larry Borum that we know now. So I think just these young guys and identifying them, and we're all biding time until Aaron Rodgers leaves the division. After that, it's possible, but until then, we're all just biding time. So hopefully next year will be better with Fields developing and the young guys and Rodgers division.
You mentioned Khalil Herbert. Do you think David Montgomery's gone after the year, or do you not like David Montgomery or anything like that?
Well, I think people, if you follow me enough, they know that I've been not as big a fan as most people of David Montgomery. To me, I don't like that Montgomery plays more Frogger than he plays north and south, which works sometimes, but other times you want him to get the yards. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago, people were mad about a 4th and 1 call that, was not good and it didn't get converted. But on the 3rd and 1, Montgomery danced and didn't get the first down. So to me, I like Herbert because he makes one cut and goes and gets downhill. And sometimes being confident and assertive with your running style can break tackles more than great angles and jukes, especially with these light defenders. They keep getting lighter to cover people. So Montgomery's going to be back because of his contract. For the love of everything, I hope Chicago doesn't extend him or pay him, because we know what paying running backs is, especially when we have so much talent. I wouldn't be opposed to them dealing Montgomery and letting Herbert have it and get a 2, whatever, and then keep building up the line and weapons for him. But I doubt that'll happen. So as a 1-2 punch, I think it's effective.
Yeah. But Fields does have decent weapons. He's got Mooney, solid young receiver, great at separating. Then you got A-Rob, the 50-50 machine, even though Fields, for some reason, does not like to go to him. But it could be a lot worse for a young quarterback.
And Komet, but A-Rob's probably gone.
Yes.
I want to pile on something you said, Nick. I think where Nagy if anybody started throwing darts at him, it was all over the Andy Dalton's our quarterback. Andy Dalton's our quarterback. And do I fault him? No, because he's the coach. But I think he could have massaged the situation publicly a little bit better to help his perception. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, I think in a way, if you know, with a lot of us, we want to be right on
Yes.
Twitter or whatever instead of being correct. And I think people just wanted to get rid of Nagy, so they're going to focus on whatever it is, and then let's hone on that and call in radio shows and print articles. And we're in this big gotcha society now instead of getting canceled and everything. To me, the whole time, I think Nagy was correct. I think he was protecting Justin Fields, which is what you want to do. You want to put your, brand new car in the most ideal situation. You know what I mean? You don't want to put it out here right now. We got snow here in Wisconsin. And so, you want to put your new car in that bad situation right off the bat. You're going to make sure everything's going to be fine, and even after an injury to Fields and Nagy was saying, hey, or the injury to Dalton, it's like when Dalton's healthy, he's going to start. And people went berserk about it. To me, the reason you say that is because if you do that and Fields doesn't play well, it's like, okay, hey, so he wasn't ready, we're going to go to Dalton, and not like, hey, Fields is our starter no matter what. So that way it puts a lot of pressure on the kid. You want to take the pressure off of him. I just think people just didn't think of it in the way that it should have been. One, I don't think he was ready. And two, you want Fields to have confidence and to be in a good situation. I think it wasn't a great situation all the way along, and to put all this pressure and, the savior, whatever, it just wasn't fair to the kid.
Yeah. And I'm going to pile on because I agree with what you said. And then I'll let Rhys chime in. It's incongruent in my brain how Nagy catches grief, but Kyle Shanahan doesn't, because you could make a case that Garoppolo and Dalton are pretty similar, and Garoppolo may execute Shanahan's offense better, but as quarterbacks, they're pretty similar. Mm-hmm. But he's been protecting Trey Lance until we'll see him this week because Jimmy G's going to be out. But my point, though, is it's kind of funny how Nagy's the bottom lowest rung and Shanahan's this genius, mm-hmm. and they basically did the same thing.
Yeah. And also Matt Nagy is a better regular season record winning percentage than Kyle Shanahan. And no one talks about that because, again, people want to be right in that he's the genius and whoever he touches will be awesome. Dante Pettis and Joe Williams and Jerick McKinnon. And he's missed on a lot of people, but every time we just want to believe him. But then if our bias is someone we don't like let's say Adam Gase, it's so popular just to hate on him. But maybe he didn't have a good quarterback or a good situation, but people won't even give that as an option. So I agree with you. I think that Chicago's best opportunity to win and to put the young quarterback in a good situation was to start Dalton. Same thing with the 49ers, which before this week was looking correct. Jimmy was playing well and he has the rapport and Lance can learn. By the way, I had somebody, post that they're excited to play Trey Lance in DFS this week because, he's going to be everything. Trey Lance has started 2 games the last 2 years combined. He has started 18 games total the last 4 years. I think we really need to be careful with expectations. We saw how much it takes these young quarterbacks to develop. And Houston just looks okay against, I don't know, some good quarterback named Herbert. So maybe let's, pump the brakes a little bit.
Especially since the Niners are 12 or 13 point favorites with the rookie quarterback. And I don't want to jump into Rhys's question, but you can make a case, and I'm not a Mills guy. I'm not a Davis Mills guy at all. I'm pretty much anti. But you can make a case that he's looked better than 1 or 2 of the high-end first-round rookies. Mm-hmm. He's looked better than Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence has wet the bed, and Fields, sure. Lance. I mean, I'm just saying that I don't want to. Mac Jones looked okay. I don't, but
yeah. Back to Rhys's question though. I do want to get to that about the weapons in Chicago. I think that's an interesting conversation to have because the only wide receiver under contract for next year is Darnell Mooney. And I got in a debate with somebody about, they said he's a sell high. I mean, Justin Fields has the longest ADOT of any quarterback in the NFL. He likes to throw deep. Mooney wins deep. But Mooney's actually really surprising with his toughness and catch radius. So I think he's a guy actually to buy, because you don't know what Chicago's going to have. They only have a second round pick. They don't have a first. So, Olave and Jameson Williams and Burks and Drake, like, they're gone, right? Probably the best hope is like David Bell or George Pickens are there in the second round. And then even then, like, I don't think they beat out Mooney right away. And money wise, actually, this is going to go back to one of your boys, Jeff. I want Chicago to bring in guys to surround Fields, because that's how you help a quarterback develop. Like, protect him. He takes a lot of time, so he gets sacked a lot. And what weapons? I mean, I would love for them to go and get some cheap, younger type guys, like go sign Juju Smith-Schuster to a value deal, just like they did to Allen Robinson. Bring him in, maybe bring in Michael Gallup, maybe bring in Will Fuller, guys that aren't going to cost the A-Rob money, and then they can develop with Fields over the next couple of years. I think that's probably the path for Chicago, because everyone else is a free agent. Bird and Goodwin and Robinson, they're all gone. Jimmy Graham's going to be gone this offseason. So is Andy Dalton. So is James Daniels. Actually, Chicago has, what is it, like 44 million under the cap for next year, but they have 21 players under contract. Like, they have to sign and draft some guys.
Yeah, but you talked about Davis Mills. Is the reason that he is performing better than most of the rookie quarterbacks because he has started a lot of games? I mean,
that's reasonable, especially in continuity situations. Like, he started a lot of games at Stanford and, was a flawed known. And I meant that verse, Trevor Lawrence, I'm more willing to give him a pass this year because it's been madness, and they're going to have a whole new coaching staff. I'm just afraid of him turning into a Josh Rosen situation.
Baker Mayfield even.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that's a good point, Rhys. I mean, you also have to think of the expectations. They've had no expectations in Houston. Think of that. No pressure for the kid. They're just supportive. Hey, good luck. There has been the Tyrod in, Tyrod out, Tyrod in, Tyrod out type of thing. But they won this last week without Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it too. When you can just go out and play and just learn in like in a positive environment, I think that's hopeful. Does it get to the point where Houston does not take a quarterback and they just go with Davis Mills and you surround him? Now, I've done some research on this, that once quarterbacks get paid the big money, Rodgers' first contract extension was actually really team friendly. But when people have gotten paid the big contract, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz, Rodgers, et cetera, Big Ben, I did a study on this. Their winning percentage goes down in the regular season. The winning percentage goes down in the postseason. And how you win a lot of the time in this economy is on rookie contracts.
Yes.
And building a great team around them, and you play that game. And so do you just roll Davis Mills and you surround him with a defense, a good line, all these weapons, and see what you can do? I think is an interesting strategy that people don't want to play out because they're worried about, fans and backlash. The only person that could do that probably is Belichick, because he gets all of the love no matter what. But it's an interesting theory, because people are like, oh, you have to have this franchise quarterback, which yes, but there's not an unlimited amount of money where this is a successful strategy. Like, there's a limit where it's like, well, your ROI is now negative on this. Like, you have to hit on all these picks to make this work, and all these contract extensions and no injuries. I mean, even Green Bay, right? Green Bay has the best quarterback of our era. I mean, overall, they've won one Super Bowl. I mean, and they've made it a ways, and they make the postseason every year. So you think of the odds, like, you have to have one ticket to the dance to get in, and they can never get over the hurdle. And a lot of times it's because he makes so much money.
Yes. But most of the rookie quarterbacks who go to the Super Bowl and win it, they have, for Aaron Rodgers, he had Jennings and the other guys there that were with Favre. Wilson, he had the cheap defense, cheap, really good secondary. Flacco, he caught fire in the playoffs, but it was the defense that carried them there.
Mm-hmm.
Mac Jones has that same he has a very good defense. So they easily are the closest to making the Super Bowl. But it does make sense what you were saying, that their winning percentages go down. The only quarterback who would probably win up for would be Tom Brady, because he's A, had so many extensions, and B, he always took team-friendly $20 million deals that allowed them to pay everybody, get better.
Yeah. The other thing I want, though, Nick, I'm going to take the opposite side of what you said.
Sure.
If you have the 3 pick and you're Houston, and your whole thing is how do we maximize rookie contracts, you take a quarterback there knowing that you have them for 5 more years while you only have Davis Mills for 3. And so if you would take that chance at greatness from that 3rd overall pick, because they add more value to your franchise and the more upside, because you can always get rid of Davis Mills for the pick. At this point, there should be a lot of teams, even like Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh should throw a 2 at them all day long. Like, I think I'm not a big fan of this guy either, but it's a travesty that Gardner Minshew went for a 6. You know what I mean? Because if you're Pittsburgh, that is like, solves your problems for next year and the year beyond, because I like Big Ben a lot, but you cannot convince me, maybe you can, that Gardner Minshew at this point in his career is worse than Ben has been for the last 2 or 3. Like, I don't think Ben's been that good.
Nope.
And so I was just looking at, if you have let's say the 3rd pick, 2nd pick, 3rd pick, you're either going to take a quarterback or you're going to trade back for more picks, because maybe you like next year's quarterback class better. I mean, that happens. And so anyway, I would just say every time you have a top 5 pick, you take a quarterback, unless it's like Cincinnati with Burrow. But I mean, if you have a high-end pick, Jacksonville's going to put me to the test on this. But what do you do with there? I think you trade back or you take a quarterback every time, because the top 3 picks are so valuable. What do you think, Rhys?
But hear me out here. If you do take a top 5 quarterback every time, and if you're having to take a top 5 quarterback every year, there's something wrong with your draft process. You need to take in new stuff, because if you're drafting the top 5 every year, you have a problem. It's a general manager problem. It's a team problem. You need to build around the quarterback. You have to give the quarterback a chance. If you plant a seed, you're not going to cover it up with a rock. You're going to put it out in the sun.
I'm with you. All I meant is they're a good 2nd round offensive lineman. Creed Humphrey went the last of the 2nd round. There are, like, I think getting Creed Humphrey in the 2nd is way more valuable than Penei Sewell with the top 5s, top 6, top 7 pick. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, Nick, I quarterback.
I think it's a good conversation. I think in my utopian strategy there of rotating quarterbacks on rookie deals, my ultimate strategy would be to draft a quarterback around 1 or 2 every other year, so we always have 2 of them as you rotate through them and let them go, and then you build the rest of your team with all of the money that you have. But in your scenario with Houston, honestly, I would trade back, because I think, just like I love my dynasty startup strategies, I love more picks than just high picks, because I want more rolls with the die. I want to just have more lotto tickets to hit on more later 1st, 2nds, 3rds, etc., to build up that team. Because as we know, with COVID, with injuries, etc., having deeper teams, and part of that's player development and coaching, but having deeper teams is more advantageous than having these thin teams that you miss all these starters. And now, I mean, look at the Saints. They were starting their 4th quarterback. I know it was bad last night. Their 4th quarterback. I mean, that's unbelievable that they're 7-7 and they were playing with all of these different quarterbacks and trying to win games. I mean, it's a war of attrition in a way, but I think the more depth you can have for teams, especially Houston, they need so many parts. I think it's going to help them out more in the long term.
2 parts. Number 1, you mentioned New Orleans. I will believe I know at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 of those quarterbacks have thrown a pick 6. But you could question their decision making.
Yeah.
And
right.
If you're Houston, what do you do with Watson? I mean,
yeah, but they're going to trade him for more picks.
Yeah, because that also puts pressure on the new 2nd-year guy, Davis Mills.
Yeah.
But what can you give for Watson if you're the Broncos or you're Carolina?
You give more than, I think Watson, Rodgers, and those guys, Wilson are worth more than what you would trade up for Trey Lance. Or I know they cost more. I get all that. But there's something about a known quantity because quarterback hit rate for top 5 picks is not very good, considering the capital. But Nick, you brought up something. Houston hasn't had a lot of draft picks of late, right?
Nope.
And you mentioned the Saints. Jameis Winston, nobody wanted. And now I think there is a market for Jameis Winston. Everybody's poo-pooing him. But he's an upgrade for whatever Pittsburgh would get. Or, I don't know. I think Matt Ryan's gone from Atlanta. I don't know. I just look at some of these teams that are competitive, like your Broncos. Like Carolina has a competitive roster, except for quarterback. There are a lot of teams that are competitive and need a passable option. This is a great discussion.
No, it is, and I think part of it too is you look at how Miami built that team. Now I know they're on this big winning streak, but even last year they had a really good team and they just missed out on the playoffs. But they built a good roster and then they brought in a quarterback. That's another way to go about this whole thing too. Is they had all those picks and they kept accumulating and they kept trading away Minkah Fitzpatrick for another pick. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's a pretty decent little strategy there. And that might be what Houston needs to do. You trade away Watson because I think you have to. I mean, you're not going to sit the guy all year. And again, nothing has been, he's not in court, it's all civil. So you're not going to sit him all year and then all of a sudden play him next year. So I think you trade back from that pick, you trade him for all of these firsts. And I think then all of a sudden you can have a solid core around him. And I think Winston, Dalton, Jimmy G, all these quarterbacks, they go to that same strategy I was talking about where you built the team around them. And you hope you kind of catch fire with one of these young quarterbacks like Case Keenum for a year or whatever it was. I would debate, though, that the best overall talent of all those guys, the Wilsons, Watson, Rodgers, should be the cheapest. He's 38. He has 1 year left on his deal. How much can you pay for a guy that's 38, 39?
Yeah. And I'm with you there, and probably the most expensive contract-wise. Yes. And Watson's contract has an escalator this year. It goes from like 10 million to 20-something million. But Watson's a lot cheaper than the other two. A lot cheaper.
And a lot younger.
Yes. And that's a great point there, Rhys. Because I got a philosophical question for you. Who would you rather have? If Houston calls up and says Watson for Trevor Lawrence, what does Jacksonville do?
In a heartbeat. Yep.
Trevor, but you don't know what Lawrence can do outside of a terrible drama-filled situation. But but we haven't seen Watson produce without DeAndre Hopkins, or was
Andre Johnson at the beginning of his career, I think.
No, was Hopkins? Yeah, Hopkins was in Arizona last year, so I take that back. But Watson was still decent last year without Hopkins. So we know he can produce in a team that has LaVisca Chenault and this okay at best team. Travis Etienne's probably going to get 70 targets at minimum.
Oh, yeah. He's the buy low. But the funny part about Watson, we're all talking what is, but he has a no trade clause that he denied a trade to the Giants. But if I'm the Giants, I knock on those doors as well, right? Because you are in the big city, bright lights, and there's an argument that you have an okay team minus if you have a decent quarterback. And I think Rodgers in New York would be, he'd love that limelight. I think he would enjoy being as snarky as he can be, pointing to his toe, all that jazz. If Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez could be successful there, Rodgers can.
Right. And they're desperate. That's a desperate team with Joe Judge coming back. So I could see something like that for sure.
You mentioned desperation, but how desperate are team like Seattle? Because they're nothing without Wilson.
Yeah. That's been quite apparent this last few weeks, hasn't it? Like even Russ can't dig him out of that hole. And I don't know. What do you think, Nick?
His play has been really bad too. That's the thing is you wonder if his price goes down because his play has just been so bad. And at least we know, I mean, Deshaun Watson, you could argue, was the best quarterback in the NFL last year. I mean, he was arguably up there with what he had around him. So like his price, depending on the court stuff, I don't think would go down as much as Russ's. He's going to be 33, 34, I think. So you get a guy that's 7 years younger. I don't know. I think Watson's the best trade candidate of the three.
Yeah. But do you see Adams leaving Green Bay as well, just to help your Bears a little bit?
He's a free agent. I've broken. I mean, of all people, I've broken this down. There's literally I would say 5% chance Green Bay can bring Rodgers and Adams back. If they do, they have to cut both Smith brothers, Adrian Amos, Dean Lowry, Billy Turner, maybe Aaron Jones. The tight end's gone, Robert Tonyan. They have Lazard. Lazard is a restricted free agent. MVS is a free agent. He won't be back. Equanimeous, I think, is restricted, or maybe he's gone. Cobb's gone. I mean, they're in really rough shape. I mean, Russell Douglas, he's gone because he's going to want money. Like they're 50 or 49 million over the cap. Adams is a UFA, so he's going to want what? 25 a year? You would think he deserves that. If he came back at 15 a year and Rodgers' deal for next year, I mean, they would have to restructure all of their top end guys and cut all those guys just to have a shot to bring them back. And then what's that team going to be like? It's going to be pretty rough. I mean, Jair's going to want an extension soon. Jair Alexander, Elgin Jenkins is going to want an extension soon. So there's going to be some tough sledding in Green Bay. What they did last year is they punted. This year, they punted. If they try and punt again, I don't know that they. Ooh, here's a take. If they cut all those guys and bring Rodgers and Adams back, I'm not sure they win the division.
That's fair.
Though I don't know if the other teams in that division are good enough to dethrone. Rodgers is easily worth 8 or 9 wins. I mean, Rodgers led team with Adams, 8 or 9 wins over, at least in quarterback play, because the only team that roster that I see competing would be the Vikings if they can get their defense together, because that's a great offense. It's a great offense. They need the defense to show up. And the Bears, they have a decent defense, and they need to get it together on offense because they have some decent pieces. They just haven't brought it all together. Because Montgomery's good running back. A-Rob, good wide receiver. Komet's a solid young tight end. Mooney's solid. Fields needs help, but he's still solid. Good. They have Jason Peters, who's playing some of his best football of his career. They got Tevin Jenkins back. It's a decent football team if they can get the offense together.
Right.
A-Rob's gone.
Still.
Yeah, A-Rob will probably be gone. Yeah, but like I said, it's going to be interesting to see, because people think that they can bring them both back, and to me, like it's and if they did, they would have to restructure David Bakhtiari. You'd have to push his money back into bonus. So like the years when he's like 34, 35, and they're like the fake years, they're going to be counting. The same with Kenny Clark's deal. Like, so that's the thing that they're going to risk and have to do. And they try it again, I mean, I think that they're probably a one and done team next year if they did something like that and cut all those guys. I mean, like they're going to miss linebacker. I mean, they're going to miss so many guys. It's and Green Bay is great at a couple of things. One, they've had obviously Hall of Fame quarterback, played for 30 years. They're very underrated in drafting and developing offensive linemen. Oh my gosh, can they do that? So those are the two things. But to me, I just think it's a thing they need to cut up, the team a little bit there and rebuild for a year and then try and reload with Love. That makes the most sense cap wise. But who knows?
That team also is pretty good at drafting and just in general. And Rodgers brings in so many free agents, especially on defense. The Smith brothers, you got Adrian Amos coming in, but they drafted Blake Martinez, who left for New York. They drafted Jair Alexander. They drafted those offensive linemen. They drafted Dillon. They drafted Aaron Jones. They drafted Davante Adams. They're solid drafters. Most of the teams in the NFL cannot draft that well.
And I will tell you this, Rhys, they were awesome at Pittsburgh and Green Bay were the two best at drafting wide receivers until Green Bay had that bad year about 3 or 4 years ago, the Equanimous draft, where they missed on 3 picks. They missed on 3 receivers. I mean, they swung and missed on all 3. I mean, you could say Equanimous is the most tenured of them. Tells you how bad it was.
That was Kumaro. That was the Kumaro year, right?
No, it was. You give me a minute, and I'll think of
Well,
it.
there's even Amari Rodgers, you could say, who right now has been a
Yes.
disappointment. That's another one.
Yeah, but they had 3, and like Pittsburgh had the string of 2nd and 3rd round picks of Manuel Sanders, Wallace,
Martavis
Antonio
Bryant.
Brown. Who'd you say?
Martavis Bryant.
Martavis Bryant, Juju,
Santonio Holmes.
Holmes, because when he caught the pass in the side of the end
Yeah.
zone, right? But all I meant though is that their luck ran out on receivers, and that's why he's struggling with receivers. But I want to take this in a different direction, if I may, for you guys. We all like Dynasty, and we're at the end of the season. We're thinking ahead. We've talked about Fields. We've talked about some of the players like Etienne.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we think's going to rebound for next year? I mean, purely value, unknowing of situations.
I think the guys you need to target are guys that obviously that didn't play well or they're rookies, because the biggest jump we see in play for improvement are rookies year 1 to year 2. And one that I'm eyeing that people are, might not love as much is Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore, I think, is a great talent. I think he missed a little bit of football in college too with the injuries, so I think he's a little behind the curve. But you look at that situation in Arizona: Zach Ertz, James Conner, Chase Edmonds, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, all free agents. And DeAndre Hopkins turns 30. He's there at least 1 more year, maybe 2. Play is falling off a little bit. Who's Kyler throwing to? And to me, I think Antoine Wesley's a restricted free agent, so he might be back. I mean, they're probably going to reload and bring some back, but they're not going to have all those guys. And plus, AJ Green and Ertz are pretty old. I think that Rondale Moore is in a good value position where right now he hasn't played well. So people are like, he sucks. So obtain him. And all of a sudden he could be looking at a lot of targets next year and you just got him for cheap.
Yes. You mentioned injury, and he's a big name, and he was playing incredible, but then he got injured, is Derrick Henry. Because everybody, I believe everybody's going, oh no, he's an older running back on a 2nd contract, just got injured. No, thank you. I'm okay. But he's Derrick Henry. He's dominated the NFL since 2019 on a Thursday night game against Jacksonville. He's arguably he is one of the only players who carries his team that's a running back. Him and Jonathan Taylor are the 2. And Jonathan Taylor is extremely expensive. But Henry, I believe, is still like running back 18 on the year. And he only played 8 games. These guys have played 15 and are still not 100% passing it. He's still ahead of guys like Melvin Gordon and Tony Pollard, who gets his love some weeks and not so much other weeks. It makes no sense. And he's going to go for cheap. You could probably get him for a 1st round rookie pick or 2.
If it's high, yeah. All right. I have a series of put up or shut up guys for you guys. All right.
All right.
And you all just tell me buy or sell. Saquon Barkley.
Sell.
Bye.
All right. That's pretty good. Irv Smith.
Sell.
Sell.
Because Conklin, I think, is playing better than Smith.
Yep.
Cordero Patterson.
Buy.
He's a free agent
Sell.
after the year.
Sell.
Buy.
Depends on where he goes, because I think you could give Arthur Smith his kudos for unlocking that player.
I sold him for a late 1st in a dynasty league 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was a playoff team just because I'm like, I'm not going to do well. I was missing some guys. I'm like, and that guy lost, so it's gonna be like the 9th or 10th pick.
Yeah, I would do that deal for Cordero, but that's on the high. There's a spectrum of deals, right?
Yeah,
because he's taught me the spectrums. That's on the high end, sell high ideal. But Patterson more likely is going to go for a 2nd. or some role player. And
that 10 pick would have gotten you Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle last year.
Yeah.
Tells you how, like,
I think I got Bateman there last year. So,
but if he's going to want old guys that like that will either chase money or championship.
Yep.
He's probably chasing championship, which means he's going to go to some place where he thinks he will be used and he has a chance to compete. Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Arizona. Any of those situations, I like the coaching staff, I like the quarterback, and I like the situation. So I would buy Cordero.
I'm with you. I have another one that I think is pretty good as well. Michael Thomas.
buy. That was one of the guys I was going to talk about, buying low. Yep.
Oh, what's his contract situation like?
Well, he just signed. I think he's there.
Like two more. He's there for like a couple more.
I can look it up. I mean, you know, as let me look it up as they're doing this. As you know, Cooper Kupp's zeroing in on breaking all these records. One of the records is Michael Thomas's. People forget it. He had 149 receptions. He's unbelievable, and now he's cheap. If they cut him after this year, it's 22.7 million in dead cap. His cap hits 24.7, so they would save 2 million if they cut him.
Yeah, so you might as well keep him. All right.
Because I believe Winston's gone, which leaves whoever they draft for Taysom Hill. And I do not want any part of the Saints offense if Taysom Hill is at the helm. Not even Alvin Kamara.
All right.
For his price.
I have another buy sell for you guys. Terry McLaurin.
Buy.
Because he's going to be expensive. That's a problem. And you have to assume they're going to solve their problems.
I would sell because he's a little bit older than people assume. He was a bit older as a rookie coming in. I would also assume that they're going to have more weapons around him. Curtis Samuel's not going to be hurt all year again, one would think, or De'Ami Brown's going to develop, or Logan Thomas, or someone else going to someone else besides him. But also, that's if quarterback play increases. So I would say sell.
Yeah, but my thing is, you're not going to hand the ball off to Antonio Gibson as much as he did last year. And they were handing off because of the injuries you just listed off. So I do think Gibson's workload would go down and that pie will increase.
All right. I'm going to list a few rookies for you guys.
Okay.
One of my favorites who's disappointed this year, Terrace Marshall.
Why? Because I trust the Panthers to try to fix quarterback with Watson or someone else.
Man, that's a tough one because right now in my mind, people that have him value him just the same or more. Like they're not going to sell him lower. So I think I would sell because I don't think you're going to get any bargain on him at all. I think he's still sky high in their heads.
All right. This is a layup for Nick. Rhys, what do you think about Bateman? Are you going to buy Bateman? Because Lamar has struggled the last few games. They've had that quarterback. He was hurt early. You buying Bateman or you selling Bateman?
Nick's going to say buying, but he's the third option on a running team. No, thank you. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Hollywood Brown's still there. Andrews is still there.
And they get their running backs back.
Yes.
I mean, all right, this is a totally different topic, but all the people out there go try to buy Gus Edwards cheap. Yes, I like the other running backs, but Gus Edwards is going to be super cheap in the offseason.
Yes.
All right, Nick, Bateman.
I'm buying because I'm chasing talent. I think Rashad Bateman is unbelievably talented. He's gotten his feet wet a little bit, some production here. And I think Mark Andrews' numbers have gone up because there hasn't been as much of a threat to anybody else. Yes, the guys will come back. How well will J.K. Dobbins come back from a major injury? Again, we just assume things are going to be fine. I also assume, Tariq Cohen would be back, and he still hasn't played in Chicago, and he's towards ACL. David Bakhtiari just towards ACL last year, and he hasn't played this year either. So we just assume these guys are going to be fine. That's just like scraping your elbow, but all of a sudden they're not here. So yeah, I will chase talent, and I will buy Rashad Bateman.
So you like this game? You guys want me to keep going?
Yeah, this is good.
CEH.
So,
Yeah, that's a sell.
well, here's the thing. You sell him, but you won't get much for him because Darrell Williams has been looking like the workhorse.
Or
there.
Derek Gore. Derek Gore's look better than CEH.
Yeah, because I think there's a decent chance Patterson goes there.
Oh, then he'd go to a buy for most people because Andy Reid would know how to use them. All right, here's another one for you. And he was as high as running back to Dynasty this year because of an absence. And that's DeAndre Swift.
Buy.
So here's the interesting thing. I just saw this on Twitter. You probably just saw this too, huh, Jeff? Where today it's popular to hate on DeAndre Swift based on PFF grades and where he's at in Dynasty. And he just catches passes and it sounds like Alvin Kamara to me, and he's 22. Like that's a buy. Like I'm if I can get a great package for him, sure. But who are you going to trade him straight up for that is a running back, again, that catches the ball, has athleticism, can break. He had 350-yard plays this year, and people are going to say he's overrated. Like to me, I'm just okay. Like I have him on many teams. Sure, he hurt his shoulder. That's not as big of an issue as an ACL, or everyone thinks Cam Akers is fine now, by the way. We've never seen him play, and he only has like 3 good games in his career. Swift has more than that. So to me, he's a buy.
Yeah. But I remember going into when was that? Yeah, that was 2020. Back in the running backs where it was the debate of Swift, Taylor, Dobbins, CEH, and Akers. I remember thinking Taylor was the clear-cut number 1, then Dobbins, then Swift. And I still think that's right. Swift still looks like a great fantasy player. And Najee Harris is on that same track too.
Yeah, I'm gonna make y'all's case for you. If Craig Reynolds can put up monster numbers, and Jamal Williams can put up monster numbers, we have to think that DeAndre Swift can do even better. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, and the thing that people forget is Detroit has invested in that offensive line. It's a good offensive line. That's why it's okay. And he catches the dump off. So you have a good offensive line, a good run blocking tight end in Hawkinson, and you have good pass catching. I don't know what Swift doesn't have. He doesn't have, the athleticism of, obviously like a 4.3 or anything like that. He has everything else. I don't know what else you want from the guy.
The only problem I could see popping up with Swift is if they get a running quarterback, which means less dump offs, or B, they upgrade the wide receiver core, which probably will happen, which leads to fewer dump offs. That's the only problems I see, or a new coaching staff, which
but safeties could be deeper too, right? You finally get a receiver they respect, and all of a sudden it's more area for dump offs, more yardage, or runs with less in the box.
Yeah, it'd be more efficiency, but less volume.
Yeah. I think durability is his big one. I'm going to continue this on. Tony Pollard, buy or sell?
I'll buy because of efficiency. I looked probably a couple weeks ago. Tony Pollard was up there with broken tackles per touch and yards after contact, which is way more than I thought he would be. I think he's a fantastic talent. I don't hate Zeke, though. I'm not one of those people, but I think you're biding time. I don't know how long it's going to be till Zeke's gone, but I think Tony Pollard is a good football player, and I'll always buy them.
Yeah, he is a good football player, but you never know if Pollard will leave Dallas in search of greener pastures with full, the green notes, and possibly more touches. You never know if he does that and leaves the genius Kellen Moore's offense.
Yeah. The other part about that is there are guys we way underappreciate in their situation that go somewhere else and explode. Who would have thought that James Conner would be a top 5 running back this year? I'm being serious.
Yep.
If I told you that James Conner would almost double the production of Josh Jacobs, you would laugh at me. Mm-hmm. So that brings me to Jacobs. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Yeah, he's a sell.
He can't catch passes. Why should we draft him?
Well, Kenyon Drake's gone. Gone. All right.
Are they gonna have enough positive game script to give Jacob, or neutral game script to give Jacob?
Who's the coach?
Yeah.
Who's the coach? Even we don't even know.
I know it's not. It's not a Gruden.
They might get they could get Urban Meyer for him.
Yeah, turn him loose in Vegas.
What?
Like it's hard.
Well, this is one thing I always pay attention to too. A new coach coming in might not like those players that are there. And a lot of times it's running backs. And those are guys I'm always wary of. So when it's a guy that's there and they're inheriting a running back, it's tough to say, hey, they're going to invest a ton into this running back.
All right, 2 more. This one's a hard one for me because it's hard for me to separate out NFL from fantasy, okay? Baker Mayfield.
Oh, man. I mean, I think he's probably a buy because he's bottom low prices. What do you even get for the guy right now? So I would probably buy that he could rebound.
And his career arc may look like Jimmy G, but that's still higher than where he's priced, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Last one. And I think you guys have to consider price on this one. I mean, it's a 2-parter because these guys are through the roof right now. And I think the price to buy may be a little much. Number 1 is Javonte Williams. Number 2 is Elijah Moore. And I think price is super high. Some people have Javonte Williams like running back 2 or 3 overall, Rhys. And so would you rather have 5 Derrick Henrys or Javonte Williams?
I'd rather have 5 Derrick Henrys easy.
I'm just saying.
But I'll take Elijah Moore just because I know he will get his. Zach Wilson, you can question him all you want. I question him, but he still should get the volume. And Moore's, like you said, is a good enough talent where he can make stuff happen.
Yeah. What do you think, Nick?
No, this is a good question, Jeff. Because I like both players. I was big on Moore before it was popular. He was my wide receiver 4, I think, last year, pre-draft. I think I would buy Elijah Moore where he's at right now because I think he still could go up. And he's young. They're both young. I think they're both 21, which helps in Dynasty. And man, I'm just going to pour one out real quick for Denzel Mims, a guy I liked that just did not pan out. I was like, man, they got those 2 and Davis. I'm like, this is a nice little core for Zach Wilson. I'm going to sell Javonte because I don't think he can go anywhere further up than where he's at. I think people are in love with him. You just see it watch Twitter. Oh, just get Melvin Gordon out of the way. Just feed Javonte Williams. Like people just the love for Javonte Williams is about where the love for Trey Lance is. People just want it to happen so bad that they're ranking them before they've ever met that area. And to me, he does catch. He breaks a lot of tackles, which I get, which I think is the most overrated stat in the industry right now. People think broken tackles means you're the best running back ever, but it just means you're avoiding people. Like maybe if you had better vision, you wouldn't have to do that, or you're avoiding, you're not getting a lot of yards afterwards. So to me, I think he's up there in that area. He's young and people want him to be so good. I like him as the player. I would love to buy him, but if I could sell him for top 4 dynasty running back value, I think I'll do it right now because I think you can get such a load back.
You would take Deandre Swift plus for Williams is what I'm putting words.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But you could think about it. Name 3 guys on the Broncos offensive line. It's hard to.
Garrett Bowles,
Lloyd Cushenberry, and Glasgow. I mean, I could do it. I'm a Broncos fan. But on a lot of the top running backs, they need offensive line. And you mentioned broken tackles. Barry Sanders was the king of broken tackles. He holds the career record for most negative yards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not his fault. He had a terrible offensive line, but is that what we want to be for Javonte Williams? Terrible offensive line, so he needs to break 7 tackles in the backfield per play.
Well, you also think of his supporting cast is pretty good. So he might not be getting the volume receiving that many people would like. He's gotten some of that, I think, just because Teddy's check down king, that's what he likes to do. But, when you got Judy, and I think Sutton is such a buy. I know he's my guy, but my goodness, people just don't want him now. And people remember what happened last season way too much. It's a young guy. You got Fant too. I mean, even if you bring in Jameis Winston into that situation, I think everything goes up. I think that they can afford to keep a lot of the things around them there. And I think that doesn't help Javonte Williams as much as people would like. Is his season-long touches and points going to go up? Of course it will. Melvin's going to be gone. Is he going to be the best running back in the NFL or a top 3 guy? He might not be, and I'll take the odds against versus the odds for.
But they get Jameis. They're probably going to have teams will probably drop back 2 safeties. Say, yeah, let's see you drive down the field.
Yep.
Let's see it. Let's see it. Which leaves Javonte Williams to do a lot of volume. But I still don't trust the Broncos. But the one thing that they do have is Pat Shurmur, who, after he left the Giants, what's Saquon been?
Right.
That's fair.
But part of it too is what I talked about earlier is they might not have him because the whole staff might be gone. So you might have a whole new staff in, and what if that staff isn't a huge Javonte fan or doesn't feed the running backs? We'll have to see. A lot of the coaching hires I think are gonna matter here too, which I think helps.
Right. I'm gonna tell Rhys something. So Nick just very lightly touched on Corey Davis, but Nick probably had a poster behind him of Nick Davis scoring every college touchdown. And so just bear that in mind. A, and B, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Melvin Gordon is next year's James Conner. You put him in Arizona, you put him in Kansas City, you put him in those types of situations, he will be running back 35 or 40 cost, and he'll play up higher. That's just low end running back prediction.
Okay.
Well, people forget he's actually good at the game called football.
Yeah.
Like that's what people are forgetting. He's averaging 4.2 yards a carry right now, and people are like, "Oh, he's terrible." He's right on par with Javonte, and that's why they're using him. And he catches the ball, he scores when he gets in the goal line. Things you want.
Okay, buy or sell Leonard Fournette.
I'm going to say buy because I think he's super cheap. And I would give high second for 2 years of Fournette because the hit rate on those high seconds isn't very good.
No, I if it's a high second, I would pay to get Fournette. I just feel like he's going to cost more. I think people are going to have that in their head where Fournette won them stuff this year. And well, how about this? Would you rather have a second, mid or late, and Melvin Gordon, or would you rather have Fournette?
Yeah, see, that's why I always go Gordon,
Mhm.
sight unseen, or James Conner, right? I mean, James Conner, if he signs with the Chiefs, he adds a different dimension to the Chiefs because he is a good receiver. Like Pittsburgh, we're like, man, that guy can't catch a cold. Now he's in Arizona and he's like over the shoulder.
One hand in it.
Yeah, and I just meant you put him in that KC backfield and he looks a lot different because he gives them a little bit of a thumper that, oh, you want to go light in the box against Mahomes? Okay, we're going to take it to you.
Mhm. Who do you guys want in Dynasty? Here's a question for the T for Tellers. You have to pick one.
All right,
Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase.
Chase.
Wow. Okay, that was easy.
Well, I will say this because I think we would look at Chase way more positively if T. Higgins wasn't there.
Yep. But
Because
he's there.
I know, but all I meant though is we're trying to compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
And I think what Chase is able to do, because this is a very unpopular take I'm about to say. Could it be, all right, back in Ole Miss when they had A.J. Brown and Metcalf, we were like down on those guys, up on Shea Patterson. Could we be too high on Burrow because we're too low on those Cincinnati receivers? I'm saying, I'm just posing that out there.
Yep. Well, there's Boyd. Yep.
Yeah, because Boyd, Tate, I mean, even Uzoma, Mixon, and Pirine out of the backfield. I mean, you could make an argument that Cincinnati and Minnesota, possibly Dallas, have the best weapons.
Tampa Bay. But they've had some injuries. Godwin's gone after the year. But you talk about young weapons. Cincinnati's got some young, really good weapons. Yeah.
Well, and to take that another layer, something I've argued, and I was an idiot on Twitter for arguing this, is all of that LSU team can't be elite and good. So far, what do we know? We know Jefferson is. We know Chase is. I mean, Jefferson's elite. Chase is really good. Burrow's at least good. Maybe Joe Brady is the most overrated coach, and he got fired mid-year, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Panthers are stupid." He had all these weapons and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he was the hot young everything coach. And I was like, they all can't be elite. Everything can't be great here. You know what I mean? Like one makes the other ones better, just like you were talking about. And Joe Brady was going to be a head coaching potential hire if things went well in Carolina. They didn't go well last year. I post something about it, and then I'm like, you know what you're talking about? Okay. And then this year he gets fired. I'm like, that's the problem is that sometimes when one pass rusher is good, the other guy gets sacks. You know what I mean? That's why I think what Robert Quinn is doing in Chicago is unbelievable. He has 17 sacks and Mac's been out half the year. Imagine if they had both of them right now. One guy makes the other one better. So, is Davante Adams the best wide receiver in the NFL, or is Aaron Rodgers making him better?
Yes.
That's a good one.
Nick, it's been great having you. We appreciate having you on. We'll have you on again soon. These are awesome conversations, just like we're hanging out, talking. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your break along with this guy, because us working stiffs, get to go to work all the time. But thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. Have a happy New Year, guys.
Yes, bye.